Time now for the markets, and outside of the Mid-South, condition reports on U.S. winter wheat don't sound good, Leighton.
No, they don't. In fact, USDA says it is getting worse, which could indeed boost wheat prices. Also ahead in the markets this week, the May 9th supply-demand report is called a yawner for cotton. Jimmy Sanders acquires a Texas Gulf Coast co-op as feeders enjoy a rally ahead of the cattle on feed report. The May supply-demand report from D.C. only had what analyst O.A. Cleveland terms mild surprises for the cotton market. One was the projection of the 2014 U.S. crop at 14.7 million bales, near 2 million above the 2013 crop. Cleveland notes this was well below the expectations of most. He says don't be surprised if the 2014 U.S. cotton crop drops closer to 14 million bales. Cleveland's opinion is the world cotton demand should continue to support prices near or above the current level. As for what the supply-demand report had to say for corn and soybeans, the USDA is projecting big crops. Extension Ag economist Dr. John Michael Riley discussed some of the major points with me on Thursday. So, John Michael, what's the story from this new report on new crop corn? Let's begin there.
Well, I think the first thing is this is the first analysis, I guess, that we do see on the corn that's either in the ground or still trying to go in the ground with these delayed plantings. So much is certainly speculative. The planting intentions report from back in March kind of dictates acreage, and then you're really working off of statistical models to get a yield. So there is a lot that's up in the air, and still a whole lot of growing season to go, but we do see that we are potentially looking at another record corn crop, marginally record, but just over 13.9 billion bushels, a 10 million bushel increase from last year, which was a record crop. So that's really the story. We're pulling back a little bit on feed use, largely due to the smaller beef cattle herd, the issue with hog supplies. So I think we're expecting less feed use, but we've seen over the past couple of weeks more ethanol being produced. So as we look forward on that is a potential increase in total corn use for the upcoming year.
Now on old crop stocks, I understand those are kind of cut rather significantly in this report.
They were dropped about 200 million bushels, which was much more than expected, and really led the charge, I guess, if you will, for a very short period of time until we looked at global stocks. Old crop global stocks were much larger than what we were looking at last month. So that then put a little bit of a rain cloud on the market that day.
All right, moving into soybeans, new crop soybeans, what did we see there? Well,
we got the planting intentions report that showed a record level of acres, and that's going to lead to a record crop if everything comes out like we're currently projecting them. Just over 3.6 billion bushels of beans this is projected for this year, and we're expected to more than double ending stocks, which soybeans have been a very tight situation for the past couple of years, and this looks like it's going to break through those tight supplies to some degree.
Now, old crop soybeans, you mentioned tight supply. Near term, we are still tight in soybeans. Were they reduced any further?
They were reduced by 5 million bushels, largely due to both increased exports and increased crushings here in the U.S. So we are, demand for soybeans continues to be very resilient, and that's putting a bit of a further pinch on those ending stocks for the old crop.
DTN reported this week that 42% of our nation's winter wheat is now rated in poor to very poor condition in the USDA Crop Progress Summary. Conditions keep getting worse, according to traders. Analyst Sue Martin says the situation is supportive of prices, especially on KC wheat.
I think the program is in good shape. We're running counter-seasonal. That keeps people trying to pick spots to sell. That's been good for the market. But I still think we've got higher to go on the KC wheat. I think KC wheat's going to $9 plus.
Jimmy Sanders Incorporated has acquired United Ag on the Texas Gulf Coast. United has been providing seed, fertilizer, and crop protection services to that area since 1982. The company will now operate under the Sanders name. Well, a little break from the markets now to look at the trivia quiz for this week, and it concerns the much discussed menace for agriculture, wild hogs. Here's the question for you. How much of Mississippi's land area is populated by wild hogs? Is the answer 25% or 40% or 52% or 71%? I'll tell you at the end of the markets. Hillshire Brand said this week it will acquire Pinnacle Foods, maker of such familiar brands as Birdseye and Vlasic. This move will make Hillshire the third largest player in the frozen food section of the nation's grocery stores. Less than a month ago, Hillshire rolled out plans to acquire waffle and cereal maker Van's Natural Foods. Pre-report positioning in front of the Friday afternoon, May 16th on-feed numbers is given at least partial credit for the recent rally in feeder cattle futures. The continued strength in cattle paper in general has analyst Mark Gold offering some advice on protection that producers might need to consider.
If I had cattle that were coming due any time in the next 6 months, would I be wanting to protect these huge prices, not only on the fats, but the feeders as well? You bet I would. Now, these puts, again, aren't cheap. But if you don't have the ability to go out and sell or price anything into the fall, you spend $3.50 on these puts, you're going to give up a couple of bucks on the strike price, spend $3, you're $5 away from the market. But if something turns this market on a dime, and at these kind of levels to come just halfway back from where we were, those puts could be very valuable insurance. The other side is, you want to sell futures in here? Well, the guys that sold $180 feeder cattle futures, watch them go to $193 making these margin calls. Could we go to $2 or $210 in this feeder market? I wouldn't rule it out. There aren't a lot of numbers out there.
Before the feature story, let's check the trivia answer for you. The correct choice this week is B. 40% of Mississippi's land area is populated by wild hogs, according to Extension Professor Bronson Strickland.